Hey everyone, it's Carissa Wiley at sprinkledwithglitter.com. Thanks for joining me today. Today I am sharing 3 card projects that feature brand new products from Pretty Pink Posh, and I thought I would share my 3 favorite card sizes that are not A2. So all of these are not A2 cards, they're various sizes, and we'll walk through them as we go. But here is a look at the brand new Pretty Pink Posh October 2024 release. It is their holiday release, and I am in love. So I thought I would start out by walking you through some of the products that I received from Pretty Pink Posh for this release. And I am going to be not only creating with these products today, but I will be live on YouTube tomorrow, October 18th at 11 a.m. Pacific time, so you can catch me crafting live with some of these products as well. In addition to that, this video is a part of a blog hop celebrating this brand new release from Pretty Pink Posh, so be sure to head on over to the link in the YouTube description below to my blog for lots of inspiration along the hop, as well as some opportunities to win some Pretty Pink Posh goodies. And you know we love a good giveaway. So let's kick off the crafting now, and I am starting with this brand new Fringe Trees die set from Pretty Pink Posh. I love it. There are several different sizes, 4 different sizes of trees that you can use on these projects. I'm going to use the 3 largest ones, and I'm going to cut them in some ombre themed cardstocks here. So I'm starting out with artichoke and avocado from Concord and Ninth, and this green section, or this green grouping, I'm going to finish off with lemongrass. You can see I have a couple other color groupings as well. It's kind of giving me that nice ombre fill. And I have all of these products and these colors of cardstocks linked in the YouTube description below. So if you're looking for a specific color, I will have that all there for you. Now I am using 3 of these shapes to build up a large Christmas tree with lots of layers. You could continue on with a 4th layer if you choose, or you can use them as single layer trees as well. They look great both ways. Now, in addition to the tree shapes, I'm also going to cut the trunks from Nutmeg cardstock, and I'm going to use this Joy Shadow die set from Pretty Pink Posh, and I'm going to die cut that top layer, or that more delicate layer, from some matte gold cardstock, and the shadow layer, which could actually be used on its own, from some vellum. So I'll run that all through my die cut machine. I also die cut an additional 3 layers of this really fine Joy die cut to stack up underneath that matte gold to give it a little bit of dimension on my card front. But look at this shadow layer. It is one that could be used on its own. You could do some colorful strips of cardstock across that and create a really fun little sentiment for your card projects. Now, I am going to speed up some of the crafting today because these are techniques that you've seen me done a lot of times, and we have 3 cards to get to today, and I do want to be able to walk you through how I created each of these card sizes, so we'll be sure to do that. Now, these are very large die cut shapes, and so I'm going to create a 5x7 card for my first project. But first, let's go ahead and stack up those plain white die cut layers behind this matte gold layer. So I've added liquid glue to the front side of each of the white layers, and then I'm laying the matte gold layer on top of it. I started by attaching 2 of the layers together with just a little bit of liquid glue at the top. I want to leave the bottoms unadhesed. Because I want the little fringes to be able to kind of roll up. And you can see as I've adhered them together, I'm then going in with my finger and just kind of running it along the fringed areas to give it a little bit of movement, a little bit of dimension, and just keep all those layers from sticking together. Now, I got smarter on the second tree because I ended up doing all of this to the fringe before I actually adhered the layers together. And instead of just using my finger, I actually went in with my dual-tipped embellishment tool to kind of roll the ends and separate them before I started adhering. It just seemed a little bit easier to kind of do this with each of the layers before they were adhered together so I could really get some nice dimension on it. So you can see I grabbed this tool and I'm just kind of running it across the fringe, separating all that. You could use a pencil or anything that's kind of round, maybe even the barrel of a watercolor brush if you have that, to achieve this same effect. And then you can see once I've loosened them up with the tool, then I'm able to kind of run my fingernail across that bottom fringe layer and really give them some definition and separation to kind of keep them all from looking like one solid blob along the bottom. Now, once I'm finished kind of giving my fringe a little bit of fluff, then I can go ahead and glue all of these layers together. Now, if you wanted even more dimension between these layers, you could use foam adhesive to adhere each of these layers together, but I knew I wanted to kind of stack up one of these trees on foam dimension, and I was trying not to get too crazy on the thickness of this card because you know I like big cards. But I was trying to keep it to a minimum on this one because once you start adding layer after layer of foam, this has the tendency to get thick real fast. Now I have the Holiday Wreath Builder die set from Pretty Pink Posh, another one of their new products. And I have some various colors of cardstock, and I'm just using some of the greenery pieces from that wreath builder. I'm not actually creating a wreath with this today. I'm just die cutting several of the elements to kind of tuck behind my sentiment. And the funny thing is, I really thought I would use all of these elements on this 5x7 card, and I ended up using them on a completely different card. But I thought I would leave this in here so that you can see how my process kind of changes in real time as I go about crafting. So I've die cut the berries from some grapefruit cardstock. I have some rainforest for my holly leaves, and then I have some avocado or lemongrass and some white glitter cardstock for the little sprigs there. I've cut a white piece of cardstock to 4.5 by 6.5 inches, so that will give me a nice 1/2 inch margin on my card base. And I'm blending just a little bit of sea glass cardstock along the bottom. Now I am taking that stacked up joy word and I'm going to adhere it to the vellum shadow layer. So again, I'm just adding a little bit of liquid glue along the back of that, and I will center this up on the vellum layer and place that down. Once I have that assembled, I'm going to go ahead and take some of this greenery that I've created from various colors of cardstock and arrange it on the right side of this joy die cut. Now, I really thought I wanted something a little bit more on this card, but then when I got this all assembled, I felt like it was too much for the card. So I ended up just taking this and creating a whole different card with it. I really am a sucker for greenery around the holidays, so I love pairing up little greenery elements like this with a nice big sentiment die for my card projects. So now that I have what I think I'm going to use, you can see I actually re-die cut the joy sentiment and all of the layers and re-adhered all of those together, so I have a second kind of version there. And now I'm taking my trees and adhering them onto the card front, and I'm using liquid glue for this largest green tree, and I'm going to kind of let it float above the bottom of the card a little bit to give these trees a little more depth and dimension as I build my card front. Now for the second tree, which is that aqua tree that I'm holding onto there, I'm also just going to adhere this directly onto the card front using liquid glue. And for this kind of nice nectar sorbet grapefruit tree, I'm going to use some foam adhesive to adhere this. And you can see I'm lining up the trunk with the very bottom of my card front to create a nice kind of differentiation between the trees. I also die cut the star from the Fringe Trees die cut and placed it on the top of that sherbety colored tree in the center. Now I have my joy die cut sentiment and I'm placing that at a diagonal towards the right hand side. To create my 5x7 card base, I have cut my cardstock to 10 inches by 7 inches, and I'm scoring this at 5 inches, and that will give me a 5x7 size card base. Very easy to do, and this can be created from any letter size piece of cardstock that you may have on hand. I did cut another piece of matte gold cardstock to be slightly larger than this 4.5 by 6.5. So I would say this is probably 4 5/8 by 6 5/8, I would guess here. It's just creating a really nice fine gold matte. And you can see I'm adhering this on using tape runner adhesive. So another flat layer again. However, I am going to use some foam adhesive to adhere this entire panel onto that 5x7 card base that I created from Nectar cardstock. And I actually ripped the backing of my foam adhesive there, which hardly ever happens to me. So I'm just gonna center this up and place it down onto my card base, making sure that fold is towards the top. I don't wanna put this on upside down. And then I'm going to finish off this 5x7 card project with a few sparkling clear snowflake sequins from Pretty Pink Posh. These are not new, but they are a longtime favorite of mine around the holidays, and they make for excellent shakers mixed with either some sparkling clear confetti or some sparkling clear sequins. I just think it's such a magical feel. Now, to add to kind of the snowy feel of these trees, I did take some Stardust stickles and kind of just smeared some along the bottom of all of the fringe of the trees. I'm squeezing a little bit out and then kind of using the nozzle to spread that up the branches just a little bit. And I'm going to do that to all 3 trees just so they have a little bit of sparkle on the bottom. This was really one of those things that helped me kind of settle into the simplicity of the card, because I felt like there was just enough magic going on this card to make it feel complete. So here's a look at the completed card. One of my favorite alternative sizes to an A2 is a 5x7 card. This gives you so much real estate to work with and is perfect for larger die cuts like this. So remember that joy die cut that I decorated with all the greenery? I placed the holly leaves and the berry onto the front of the Y, the letter Y, and then I added some liquid glue behind this kind of grouping that I'm creating, and I'm attaching some of these sprigs in this green color as well as some white glitter cardstock, and that just brings kind of a snowy effect to this grouping. When I'm working with greenery, I really do like to vary the colors of greens that I'm using. I also like to sneak in some white glitter cardstock for some of the sprigs and vines, or even some vellum. I really feel like it breaks up all the colored cardstock and kind of gives it a magical look. So I'm just adding some liquid glue behind these and kind of holding those on there as the glue sets up so that they stay in the right position. Now I'll also take some cross-lock or reverse tweezers and use those to add pressure onto this grouping until this all sets up. But you can see I originally created it when I thought it would go on the 5x7 card, and then I looked at it and I loved it and I didn't want it to go to waste. And so I'm gonna make sure that I put it to good use. I'm starting out by trimming some cardstock strips. These measure about 3/16 of an inch, so they're just slightly less than 1/4 of an inch. And I've cut them from grapefruit, rainforest, and sea glass cardstock, but you're gonna see me change my mind because that's what I do. So I'm adhering these cardstock strips onto a panel of nectar cardstock. And for this card, I am creating a 4-bar card. So about 3.5 by 5 inches for this card. That means that this cardstock is cut to 3.25 by 4 3/4. Now this creates a really great mat size on an A2 size card, but I love a 4-bar card, that 3.5 by 5 inches, because it's just such a fun size. And you can get away with just a really simple design like this and it feels complete. So I'm just trimming down a little bit of foam adhesive to tuck behind this Joy word die. Remember, I created this one exactly like I created the first one. This one just has the greenery on it. And then I'm going to remove the backer to the foam adhesive and place this right over those diagonal strips that are on my card front. But when I laid this down, something didn't feel quite right. Now, I probably could have remedied this with a little bit of texture on the background, but I just felt like the color palette was off. So I'm looking at it and I feel like, ugh, something's just not quite right. And so I did a little bit of card surgery. I went back to this avocado cardstock and I trimmed that down. It's 3/16 of an inch. And I'm just going to lift up that letter J and I'm going to slide this right over that sea glass color. And when I looked at those two greens next to each other with that grapefruit colored cardstock at the top, I really felt like that was what this card needed to feel just right. I don't know. So now I'm trimming my cardstock down. First, I'm trimming it long ways at 3.5 inches, and then I am going to trim it to 10 inches. So 3.5 by 10 inches, and then I'll take this over to my scoring tool and I will score it at 5 inches. And this creates the perfect little 3.5 by 5 inch note card. It's often called 4-bar. Actually, a 4-bar I think has some 1/8 inch measurements in there, but this is the easiest way to create it without making yourself crazy. So I'm positioning this card front onto my card base using a little bit of foam adhesive, and I'm finishing off the whole thing with a little bit of sparkle. I have some sparkling clear confetti sequins here from Pretty Pink Posh, and I'm just varying the sizes and placing them onto my card front using a little bit of liquid glue and a dual-tipped embellishment tool. So here's a look at card number 2, a 4-bar card, which measures 3.5 by 5 inches. Another one of my favorites. I love the smaller size of this card. They're very fun to create. And because there's not quite as much real estate, these really can be nice, simple card projects. Now, the third card size I want to share with you today, that's another favorite of mine, is a mini slimline card. So I'm cutting my cardstock to 6.5 inches by 6.25 inches. Then I'm going to score this cardstock along that 6.5 inch edge. Now these measurements are pretty close, so you want to make sure you're scoring on the correct edge. And I'm scoring at 3.25 inches. So again, 6.5 by 6.25, and then score along the 6.5 inch edge at 3.25 inches. Now I know that that can be a little confusing, but trust me, it's so much fun to create this mini slimline card size, and it makes a great cash holder as well. Now I'm die cutting more of those fringe trees from some various colors. I have lemongrass and artichoke here, along with sorbet, grapefruit, and nectar. But something, again, on this color profile, I loved the layout because I'm going to place them kind of long in the center here. I love the layout, but something about the color profile was not feeling quite right to me. It just didn't feel balanced. So I die cut another one of the smaller trees here. This is the smallest tree in the set from some watermelon cardstock, and I replaced the nectar cardstock tree with the watermelon colored tree, and that just felt like the pop that this card needed. Now I have them arranged on my card front here to kind of give me an idea of what I want. And I picked them all up with some removable tape, and it was my intention to place these on with the removable tape. But you can see I accidentally pulled this lemongrass tree right off of that tape, and so I had to resort to just adding them on myself. So I have some foam adhesive behind these. I have a panel of nectar cardstock, and it measures 3 inches by 6 inches. So I'm just holding this on my grid mat and kind of putting this lemongrass tree to the right of center, and I'm overlapping the artichoke tree kind of to the left of center, and just allowing the bottom ends of those to kind of cross over just a touch. So you can see those are just kind of splitting the difference of that midline. Then I'm going to add these other colorful trees on top of that. I'm only adding foam adhesive at the top of these where they're going to clear those larger trees, so they kind of sit a little more flush, and that's going to make it easier for me to adhere that joy die cut sentiment across the center of these trees. So I'm lining the smaller trees up about 1/4 inch above the bottom of those larger trees just to create an interesting design. And then I'm going to add this joy die cut word right over the top. I created it just like the other two joys. I didn't change much up. And I'm just positioning that onto my card front. Now I am going to use foam adhesive to add this panel onto my card base. So I'm just trimming some foam adhesive down, and then I will add this onto my finished card base, that mini slimline, which measures 3.25 by 6.25 inches. Now that I have everything positioned, I'm just going to take my fingernails and just kind of rough up those fringes. I could have done this before I placed them onto the card project, but I really felt in this case it would be harder to line up that bottom of those trees if they were already fluffed. So I waited to fluff until after they were adhered. I wanted to add a little more sparkle to this card, so I'm using a mix of sizes of sparkling clear sequins from Pretty Pink Posh, and I'm placing them onto my card front using a little bit of liquid glue. And that is card number 3, a mini slimline card, another favorite card size for me that's not an A2. So here's a look at all 3 cards. I really do hope that you've enjoyed this look of my 3 favorite sizes of cards that aren't A2. And I hope I've inspired you to create in a different format than you're used to creating with, because it is kind of fun to branch out in your layout and your sizes sometimes. I know I had a great time creating this. You can see I used the same products kind of over and over again, but in different ways. And that's always a fun way to challenge yourself when you get new products. Now, as always, I will have links to the featured products used in these projects in the description at YouTube. So if you're looking for something in particular, be sure you check there. Or you can head on over to my blog at sprinkledwithglitter.com. I'll have that linked below as well. Over there, you'll find more still shots, more information, a complete list of supplies, as well as information on a blog hop celebrating this brand new holiday release from Pretty Pink Posh. Thank you so much for stopping by and hanging out with me today. I hope you enjoyed these projects and I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to give this video a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notifications here so you don't miss any of my paper crafting and card making video tutorials I share. Don't forget, I'll be live tomorrow on Friday, October 18th at 11 a.m. Pacific time with another card project featuring products from this new Pretty Pink Posh release. I hope to see you there. Be sure to leave me a comment below and let me know which 3 of these card projects is your favorite, or which of these 3 card sizes is your favorite. Thanks again for watching. I'm so glad you're here. Don't forget to shine bright, and until next time, I hope you have a fabulous day. Hey, thanks for sticking around to the very end. You know, if you've made it this far, you are one of my favorites. To subscribe to my channel, go ahead and click the button on the left side of the screen. And here's a couple more video tutorials I thought you might enjoy.